Hi, this is the second part of bench testing a 112 Lionel Super O switch. I want to go over the spring contact rails. These contact rails are on the new switch here and here. On the older 1957 switch, the first year was made, they're a little larger, and they actually fit in between the control rail. So it's very important on these switches to have the insulating pin inserted and also going deep within the rail and protecting the spring from touching the top of the rail, because that's how the springs are lined up. As you can see, this one here, there's a little, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little blue tape here. So this insulating pin doesn't go in far enough to prevent that spring from touching, so somebody put a piece of blue tape in there. These contact springs add an extra ground so that if the outer rail doesn't make contact to the control rail through the axle, the train hits these contact springs and it provides ground to activate the switch motor with a branch, if the branch is open. So let me try to show you a little bit about that with this switch here. Now, this switch I found in the bottom of a pile under a guy's table at one of the meets. Paid a couple dollars for it. He didn't know if it worked or not. And let me just go through it. So I applied power, 14 volts here, and the ground here. And let's see, I'm going to short out the control rails, and nothing happens. Alright, so let me take the motor housing off. The motor looks like it's in good shape. Let me just try shorting out the wires directly that go to the control rail. These two wires go to the control rails, and also the 022C controller nuts right here. And absolutely nothing's working. So let me see if I got power. I'll just do a quick spark test. Oh, yep, we got it. And let me put this back in together over here. And we'll just try this. See, the voltage screw is on track power, so it should spark. Nothing. So that means we got, yep, as I thought. The third rail frog rivet has isolated itself from. Now, you could probably get that to work with just a little bit of cleaner. It's just probably oxidized. I use the CRC stuff, and that seems to work pretty good. But let's try getting the switch to operate. It's just being a little bit fussy right now. Okay, so let's try one of the other rails. So I connected it to the other third rail, the center rail here, and let's see if we can get the switch to operate. Yep. Alright, so the motor is good. Alright, and let's try the control rails again. Shorten them out to ground. Nothing works. Let's try moving it to straight position. Oh, that's working. Okay, so this is nothing here though. So there's a problem with the control rail or the ground strap, contact strap. So let's just hook up a alligator clip to one of the outer rails and see if we can get the control rails to operate. Nope, nothing. Alright. Okay. I don't know why this clip's not holding. It should, but okay, let's try this rail. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so that tells me that we have a couple of problems with this switch. Just to check the other rail, the other third rail, see if that's making contact. Okay, so the branch center rail coming in is isolated from the bus bar that connects the three rails, the voltage screw settings, and that bus bar comes over and goes and is right underneath if you can see that spark right there. It's right underneath that housing right there. And that connects the control arm rivet to the center rails and the voltage screw. The power goes through the arm to the lights and also to the coils. And the coils come down into these wires here. And from these wires are connected to the 022C thumb nut and also to the control rails. So basically we have a problem with that outer rail is not connected to the bottom plate. There's usually tabs that go through and connect to the bottom plate, but this one here is working, so this one must be connected to the... Okay, so one other thing with the that could short out sometimes is if this third rail frog is down too far, a long roller coming across will short out on the swivel rail. Now this switch is missing the swivel rail spring, and that's why it's a little sloppy. If it had the swivel rail spring, it wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So we got several issues with this switch. We have this third rail is not connected to the switch because of it's just a tiny bit loose on that rivet. So you probably could cinch this up by giving it a tap on the other side. Now, from 1960 and above, they provide an access hole to get to that rivet, which is right here. You can see the cardboard that insulates the center rail bus bar from the backing plate. But right underneath here is that rivet screw, so you could probably cinch it up with a light tap of a hammer, and that probably would fix that problem. The outer rail, you could see the tabs are not bent correctly. They're loose. So that's why we had the problem with that outer rail not making contact to the backing plate. So they'd have to be cinched up, cleaned and cinched up, and that probably would solve that problem. The control rails are connected to the wires, so we don't have that problem. Sometimes these wires are disconnected from that underneath, and that's a big problem. You have to take the switch apart to fix that, or run wires around the outside and connect it to the motor winding. On the older switch too, these wires coming through here, they don't have this protective sleeve around it. So you could get fluttering or chattering if this wire is touching the motor housing plate. And let's just go see if we can show you that quickly. If you get chattering, it's caused by one of the grounds. Just bear with me 1 second. I'll hook this back up again. So let's see if we can get it to work. Need to just okay, it's working. Well, we had it working there for a second, so these ground springs are not really in great shape. They're probably not making good contact underneath. They're most of these contacts in the switch are crimp connections, so this switch has probably got some oxidation on the inside. So it's basically a good switch to use for the sidings. I wouldn't use this switch for the main. One other thing I have to tell you about is the bulbs. If the bulbs usually go into these locations here, and in the back there's a little ground strip for the bulb. If the two bulbs are dimly lit at 14 volts, that means that ground strip is oxidized and needs to be cleaned with a piece of sandpaper. You just have to run a piece of sandpaper between this motor housing and that ground strip, and that'll solve that problem. And to clean the contact arm, you want to activate or manually move the control rail. I mean the plunger all the way to the end, and then push down. And that's what I would do. And then you could take some paper, emery paper, or 400, 600 grit paper, and clean the contacts here. Alrighty, so there's a little work to be done on this switch. Can be made operational with some time. There's nothing here that really would make me take the switch apart. I just would not. I would live without the contact springs here not being operational, because you really don't need those if the outer rails are in good shape and are connected to ground. All right. I'm sure I missed a couple of things, but again, if you need ask any questions, you can go to group Lionel Super O track group at groups.io, and those guys there answer any questions you have. It's a good group of guys. Hope this helps a little bit, and have a good day, and thanks for watching.